The Nicktoons Unite series is fascinating. I've really enjoyed revisiting it this past year, and I'm kinda sad that the series died and I have no more mainline games to talk about. Believe it or not though, the Unite series wasn't the first time these television icons got together in the world of gaming, far from it. Before they were uniting, they were carding, moving, party blasting, and even tune twisting in 3D. I don't know what this is. But that's okay because we're not here to talk about that. Instead, we're here to discuss Nicktoons Freeze Frame Frenzy on Gameboy Advance in order to figure out if it's worth playing today. So I know what you're thinking, who cares about a 2004 licensed GBA game starring Auto Rocket from the timeless and beloved TV show Rocket Power? No one. But here on HydratedGaming, that's basically the theme of this channel. Videos on games no one cares about. Go search Crayola Wii Game Review on YouTube and I'll be like the 5th suggestion. This is how I'll conquer the world. And before you think that's stupid, remember, Rome was just a city-state to start with. Bratz for PS1 is my city-state. Nicktoons Freeze Frame Frenzy predates the Unite series by 1 year. It was developed by Japanese studio Ultron, who made such GBA classics as Finding Nemo and SpongeBob Atlantis Scorpanus, both games I was the proud owner of as a young lad. Now looking at their logo, I always thought the studio was called Nultron. I mean, look at that, how is that not an N? Could they not see this was going to confuse their player base? I mean, what, do they not have the English alphabet in Japan? Also, you're either going to know exactly what I'm talking about here, or I'm going to sound completely insane, but do you ever have it where your brain just bakes in a completely stupid thought process from when you were like 9 and never bothers to update it because you've never pondered the topic since then? Like when I was 7, I thought this said Nultron, which sounded like Neutron, and that made logical sense to me because this was a game about Jimmy Neutron. Like I thought this was from the makers of Jimmy Neutron because the name sounded close, which it actually wasn't. And while I was writing this, I realized that I kind of assumed that was probably still what this company was until I thought about it for more than 2 seconds. Like, why did I not correct this thought earlier? Does anyone understand what I'm saying? Maybe this is why YouTube keeps giving me ads for schizophrenia pills. But speaking of things in your walls, the walls of these different cartoon universes are being ripped apart by an unknown entity, and it's up to Jimmy Neutron, no relation, to fix this big mess. Characters from other Nickelodeon worlds have begun appearing in Dimsdale, Bikini Bottom, Amity Park, suburban California, and Ocean Shores / the Wild Thornberries world. Now the game says there's 5 worlds and combines Rocket Power and the Wild Thornberries into the same world. So I did some research and this actually is correct in canon, they do take place in the same universe. There was a 2000s comic where the Rocket Power gang babysat the Rugrats, and then the Rugrats crossed over with the Wild Thornberries, linking both of the shows. So that's 4 worlds, plus Retroville is mentioned as having issues even if you never really visit it, so that does total 5 worlds. I'm pretty sure it was a complete accident that this story canonically makes sense, but I'll take it. In order to help make things right, Jimmy Neutron builds a camera that is capable of sending these characters back to their correct worlds if their photo is taken. He calls upon Timmy Turner, SpongeBob SquarePants, Danny Phantom, Auto Rocket, Arnold Shortman, and Tommy Pickles to go tackle the issue. And right away, I think this cast is extremely solid. Personally, I would have swapped Otto with Eliza Thornberry so there's at least one girl here for girls to play as should they want to, but honestly, the demographic playing this back then probably just picks SpongeBob every time regardless, so it doesn't really matter. Each of the characters have different stats, which is interesting, and you have to unlock everyone by filling in the photo album except for SpongeBob and Otto, which is a bizarre starting duo, but whatever. But after you select your character, Jimmy will give you a few specific things to photograph in the stage for points. These stages are auto-scrollers, and you beat them by making it to the end without running out of health, and by getting enough points to meet the goal. You get points by photographing enough out-of-place characters in conjunction with the aforementioned quests. In-universe characters will net you a few points, but you mainly want to focus on the characters that don't belong here. This gives an innate disadvantage to folks who don't really know their Nicktoons history because you may not know which order to photograph things if you're running out of time. Like 7-year-old me didn't know if Keith belonged in All Grown Up World or the Wild Thornberries, and it turns out he belonged in neither. He actually doesn't belong in any world, but at the same time he apparently exists twice. So in addition to functioning as a video game, it also serves as a marketing tool to promote other shows on the network at the time that you may not be familiar with. And that totally worked on me. I was like, I need to know more about this Tuck character, and this Tuck character. I wonder if they're related to the Keefs. As you're going through the stages, you'll want to avoid these circle things which will decrease your health if you hit them. They're the only things in the standard levels that damage you, and all they ever do is roll on the floor, which is kinda lame. But somehow I still died to these as a kid now and then, so make of that what you will. There's some power-ups that will do things like speed up the rate you can take your pictures, restore your health, move your cursor faster, and increase the size of your photo range. Interacting with the world to expose hidden characters and secrets is pretty fun, and there's a ton of callbacks for fans of the show. This is basically just a giant Easter egg hunt the whole way through, and I loved this as a kid. At the end of each world, you fight a robot boss who is a villain from one of the shows, and your character does a quick interaction before it starts up, making it sort of interesting to swap out characters and see the 2 new precious lines of dialogue. It's pretty good stuff. The boss fights are a little more difficult as you get these key-shaped things which attack you and are harder to photograph to defeat, but I would have liked these kinds of obstacles in the regular stages too. But even if the gameplay is sort of mediocre and repetitive, I've always had a soft spot for this one. I don't get the sense that it was trying to be any deeper than a nice way for kids to relive moments from their favorite shows on the go. The point is to give the youth a nice little distraction in the car, and have them go, I remember that, right after Squidward gets huge thighs after eating too many Krabby Patties. And I think it does it well. It really sends you into the worlds of these shows far better than any games in the Unite series really did. Those games barely had any NPCs at all now that I think of it. And because of that, if you're a fan of these Nicktoons, I suggest giving the game a look. The game plays good enough, and it's a nice trip down memory lane for literally less than the cost of a Big Mac. There's no real game I've ever played like this either, it's pretty unique. There is apparently a Japanese exclusive PS1 game that this was based on. I don't know how to pronounce this. But besides maybe, I don't know, Pokemon Snap, you're probably not going to find too many games like this. But none of this is why I wanted to talk about this game after reviewing the entirety of the Unite series. What I really want to discuss is what I think the game gets right, its story. You see, I think this game actually tells the perfect early 2000s Nickelodeon crossover story. In between beating some of the stages, you see this ominous, shadowy figure and some strange music begins to accompany him. As a kid, I had no clue who this was, and the aesthetics and music kind of spooked me a bit, but in the good way where I wanted to keep playing to figure out who this mastermind was. Later, after getting through all 5 of the main worlds, it's revealed to be none other than Invader Zim. The fact that Zim is the primary antagonist for only this game in the series was a huge missed opportunity. Zim is the perfect Nickelodeon villain in my opinion. He's goofy and wacky, but also can be genuinely frightening when he needs to be.
Once I take care of the humans, I will begin my war against the bees.
And best of all, despite being a pretty ego-driven goofball, he is no doubt a genuine threat. He has the technology and skills that could realistically threaten to defeat everyone in these games, and setting him up as a rival to Jimmy like they do here is pretty brilliant. I would have loved a mainline Unite game featuring Zim as the antagonist like this game had. You could have had him team up with some other villains from Nickelodeon. Maybe get some older, lesser-known characters to join him like the Monsters from Ah, Real Monsters, or Doug, who betrayed his family by moving to another network. Having Zim as the antagonist opens up so many interesting story directions, and it's a shame this concept wasn't explored in any of the bigger games. It does seem like there were plans to sorta do this in Toybots, as a lot of the concept art details a bigger role played by the Irken soldiers, and even things in the final game have the Irken insignia still on them, but none of that really made it into the story. After Jimmy learns Zim is behind everything, he blasts off in his rocket in pursuit, and you get a nice little unique flying level. After this you fight Zim, and it's a pretty interesting fight, but it's very short. After beating him you'd think the game is over, but no, you actually need to work together to prevent the ship from exploding for some reason. To do this you must travel down a hallway where your projectile dodging skills are put to the test, and Jimmy doesn't have much health here. I remember this being a genuine challenge for me as a kid. After this you have to photograph the steam exhaust from this weird engine, and then it looks like you failed and blew up. As a kid, this kinda traumatized me until like 20 seconds later where it's revealed everyone lived. Zim and Jimmy call a truce after working together to save both of their lives, and to close out the game, Jimmy throws a nice party to celebrate with his new friends. After a nice group photo is taken, we're shown Zim reprogramming the defeated robots as he laughs about being ready to try again. Then the game says to be continued. Except, no it isn't, because this game never had a sequel. There was a PlayStation 2 version planned, but it was cancelled. Once you complete the story, you're pretty much done here, with the exception of finishing the photo album if you didn't already. You complete the album by taking pictures of everyone in the game. In doing so will unlock Zim himself, but after doing that there's not much reason to keep playing besides going for a high score. Because of all this, you can complete the whole game in just a few hours, but that's fine with me as I think if it was any longer, the repetitive gameplay would make me less enthusiastic about it. In conclusion, the story is great, the callbacks are fun, and the gameplay is alright. If you love the early 2000s Nicktoons, I think you'll have some fun here. If you don't, I don't think this is the game for you. Oh, and one last thing, the music in this game is surprisingly solid. I enjoy a ton of these tracks, and making something sound pleasant with the GBA's sound quality is no easy feat, but the team did it. But at that, I want to thank you for watching Hydrated Gaming. This is probably it for the Nicktoons games for a while. I know there's GBA versions of the Unite games, but I'll tell you right now, I have no intention of replaying them. I remember these very well, and no thank you. Unite especially is one of the ugliest games I've ever seen. I do not need to relive this. Nicktoons Party Blast, however, this 1 out of 10 on IGN is calling my name. I need to know how it's that terrible. Also, apparently they all got together to go pro in baseball.
Well, I guess that's worth a look.
Have a great rest of your day, and stay hydrated.